Yes, and so yeah, welcome to everyone, and it's a true pleasure for me to introduce Pat Pearsall. And Pat is the kind of person who, I just need to turn off. There we go. Yes, Pat is the kind of person who finds answers within herself. And we still have people who are not muted, I think. So if you could mute yourself, that would be great. Yeah. So finding answers within yourself, it might be an answer to why is a person triggering me, or why did my iPhone fall into the swimming pool, or a question on a more global scale. And as Pat meditates, the answers come to her like a spark, and that spark enlightens her with a full understanding of the concept of the answers, not in words, but in the concept. And we have all heard these ancient wisdom sayings in one form or another. Sayings like, all answers lie enfolded within you, or you yourself are greater than the great sky above. And there are a few facets that Pat has that enable her to do this. And I've noticed that one of them was when I walked into Pat's design studio, I found myself in a bright and pristine place of very high vibration. There are crystals of all colors sparkling everywhere. And Pat is sitting there at her table, at her desk, putting crystals on the dress she is making. And you can hear the music to which the ice skater will be dancing. This music is playing in the background. The crystals are sparkling, and there might be a parrot sitting on her shoulder and another parrot sitting on its cage. So just imagine those vibrations. And there is a saying that your home is the business card to your personality. So Pat has created this business card, this orderly and bright place into which higher vibrations can easily flow. And another facet of Pat is that she has a very healthy sense for following her own guidance. When she and I traveled together on our adventures through the southwest of the USA, we often encountered people trying to instill fear in us, or trying to limit us in one way or another. And they would say things like, don't go there. There are things that go bump in the night. There are portals where beings from other dimensions come through, or don't go there. There is this place is heavily guarded by the military, or there are mountain lions, or the road is too dangerous to travel. And when people tried to limit us in such ways, we would look at each other and say, we are going, if it felt right. So other people's rules and fears did not necessarily apply to us. They don't necessarily apply to Pat. And so when it comes to other people's rules on how to meditate, how to sit, how to breathe, Pat examines these things. And for sure, she waits until that spark of enlightenment comes through, where she has a full understanding, a full knowledge from within her as to what to follow and what is right for her. And a third facet to Pat is that wherever we went, every morning, she would find a chair, sit facing the sun, and meditate. So she created that place, she created that time, and actually sat and meditated. So these three facets, the clear vibrational space, the sitting down and doing it, and the adventurous aspect of not allowing any limitations from outside are what I see contribute to making Pat such an extraordinary meditator. And so it's a true pleasure, and it's an extraordinary opportunity for us to hear from Pat today. So Pat, would you like to share some of your experiences and how you got into this?
Sure. First of all, hello. Yeah, I think, and I share this usually at CE5s because we get into very big discussions about meditation. There are a lot of discussions about the right way to meditate or the wrong way. And I typically will jump in and kind of share how I got started meditating. I think I was probably around 12, 13 years old. I spent much time in my room because I was pretty much an ADHD person. And this led to spending large amounts of time in my room, as you can imagine. That led to me finding books that were just interesting books. I got a copy of the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. Somehow I ended up with a copy of the I Ching. There were a couple other books that came into my field of vision. One of them was a book on yoga, and then there were many references to meditation. So at that age, somewhere between 12, 14, I started meditating at home. And this was before I knew anybody who meditated. Nobody spoke about meditation. We really were not into the time yet of the Beatles, who had gone over to work with the Maharishi, and there was this massive explosion of meditation across the world. So I started that meditative practice, and I would just focus on a candle, a flame of a candle. I pictured myself in a cave with just a candle, and that is how I meditated, how I started meditating. And I used that process of focusing on a candle flame for, I don't think I changed that process until I was in my early 30s. Yeah, probably early 30s. So maybe 15, 16 years. And at that point, I started looking at different ways to meditate, different things to use to get into a meditative state. And one of them was the breath. I tried the breath. I tried other images. The breath is a very interesting one. It's very easy because you always have your breath with you. I mean, it is always there. It is always available. And you can just sit, focus on your breath, breathing in, breathing out, and you can easily get into a meditative state. So that's how I started meditation. And, I always tell people there's no right or wrong way to go into meditation. You need to try all the different techniques. And Dr. Greer uses quite a few different ones. He uses a breathing, the prana breathing, and a few others. Try them all, decide which one works for you, and then use that. Yeah. To this day, after all those years of meditating to a flame, if I am in a situation that is stressful in any way, and I need to call on something to kind of, maybe recenter myself or refocus myself, I will still, to this day, picture a candle flame. And in that second, I feel my shoulders just drop, and I can easily, it immediately changes my energy. Even if I see a candle flame on television or on online somewhere, I have exactly the same result. So that's what happens when you use something over and over and over again. Your body, your consciousness literally takes over, and it becomes a physical manifestation of that conscious thought. So.
Yeah, Pat, I remember you telling me about doing weeks of a particular meditation to actually for healing, I suppose you could say that. Would you like to share that meditation?
Yeah, there are a couple of meditations that I've done in the last probably 5 to 10 years, 5 to 7 years really, that I think changed everything, actually changed everything. I understood Buddhism, I studied Buddhism, but I never really delved into Buddhism. It was something I understood, I read about, but I never studied it really in depth. But there was one meditation, and most of the meditations that I've come up with, I have seen something within myself that needed to be looked at. And from that point, I sat in meditation with that, and it just took on a life of its own. So one of the meditations was this loving meditation. I sat there one day and I thought, I'm just going to sit here in meditation. And I spent years, I read every book about meditation and getting into higher states of consciousness. And every book that I read said, if you will raise your vibration and raise your frequencies, you can attain a higher state of consciousness. So I would read the entire book, and nowhere in the book did they tell you how to do this. I can't tell you how many books I bought and read, and none of them. I mean, we'd read the whole book and I would say, wait, where is the information? It's not here. So one of the things I decided to do was sit in meditation and say, okay, if I am to find this information about how to raise my frequency and how to raise my vibration in order to move into higher states of consciousness, then I'm going to have somebody send this to me, or I'm going to have some help. And I'm sitting in meditation one day. This may be a few weeks after I started asking for this information. I'm sitting in meditation one day, and this thought comes into my consciousness, and I'm at the point where I can tell when it's not my thought. The thought comes in and it says, fill your heart with love. This is the way. And I thought, fill my heart with love. And I set about to think, how would I do that? And the voice, this thought was just find something that fills your heart completely with love. So I thought, okay, I would think of my children. But when I would think of my children, I would also think, okay, are they okay? Or how's work going? Or how's school going? And I realized I really needed to have something that completely filled my heart instantly and very quickly with love. And I have a lot of animals, as Una has said. I have 5 or 6 animals here. So I started picturing those animals, and it absolutely filled my heart with love. And it completely suffused my entire being with this feeling of love. And the voice said, that's how you raise your frequency. And I said, that's it? That's it? That's it. It's just that easy. So I started using that technique as I sat in meditation. I would sit in meditation facing the sun often, like I did on our trip. And I would think of all these things that filled my heart with love. And as soon as I completely felt suffused with love, I had the thought, well, maybe I should send this love out. I started facing, like, in my mind, north, and then I would move a little bit to the east, and I would eventually turn in my conscious thought, in my vision, turning until I had covered the entire earth, sending love, sending out this love, this tremendous amount of love that you feel suffused with. And I did that for years. I would send out this love. And I sat there about a year after I started doing this. I sat there one day and I thought, I wonder if when I'm doing this, that this is actually doing anything. Is this going anywhere? Does anybody even know I'm doing this? Is this happening? Is this helping? And that was one of the first times, and a voice literally jumped right in, and it said, when you do this meditation, we join you to expand the energy. I was totally shocked. I was really shocked. But this is how that meditation grew. I started sending that love out, not just to this entire planet and everyone on the planet. I then expanded it to the solar system. I then expanded it to different realms, the angelic realm, the all these different dimensions where beings reside. Then I sent it out to the galaxy, to the universe, to all beings everywhere. And it kind of took on a life of its own. And that's the meditation that I've shared numerous times at CE5s.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
That's actually the meditation that at Joshua Tree I was told to share.
Yes. And you were talking about this voice in your head, and you've got exceptional auditory skills. This voice in your head, can you talk a little bit about how you know, or how you perceive it not to be your own voice, but another voice? And it's lots of people are very interested in channeling, and channeling is absolutely not the same as receiving downloads and hearing that clear voice. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, I have never considered myself a channel ever. I don't really think I understand channeling, and so I've never had the feeling that that's what I'm doing. When this started of a voice coming in very clearly, what your own voice, when you're thinking, and we're all doing that all the time. When you're thinking in your own voice. Your own voice is what you're hearing when you're thinking in your mind. When another voice comes in there, it is unmistakable that it is not yours. I mean, it is definitely someone else's voice. It's very clear. Sometimes it's loud and clear. Sometimes it's a very soft voice. Sometimes it's just a thought that is, that this is kind of a little packet of information that is inserted that you can open and listen to or watch. I've had some downloads that are that have come in like a movie. I mean, the one that I shared, I can't really share it here because it's about someone else's life, but that was an entire movie about someone else's. I can share that it was about Dr. Greer, but I wouldn't, without his permission, I wouldn't share because it is about his life. But that was an entire movie that I was able to see with sound and everything. It's quite interesting.
So
oh, you're muted. There you go.
no, thank you. So Pat, why is it important to meditate? How does it change your life, and how does it pertain to CE5?
Well, to me, meditation is a way to gain focus. It's a way to go within. It is a way to become calm. And in the early years, I used meditation for those purposes, really to be calm, to really be able to kind of deal with life a little bit better. And then as time went on and I had meditated more, and so using some of these other meditations, the one I just spoke about with the loving meditation, which is really more of along the lines of a metta meditation. For those people who study Buddhism, it is more of a metta meditation, and the forgiveness meditation. That, as soon as I got involved in CE5, this took on a different path, really. I began to understand in a way that I had never understood before, that through meditation, and it's really, for me, it's the only way that I've found. Through meditation, you begin to be able to move into higher states of consciousness. And I really have not found any other way to do this. I know some people have used different drugs to do that. That's not my way. But this is, to me, the vehicle by which you attain higher states of consciousness. And in those higher states of consciousness, you understand yourself. There are what the Buddhists talk about as siddhis. When I first heard that term, it was from Dr. Greer on a CE5, on one of the first CE5s, where Una, you and I met in Texas. He had talked about higher states of consciousness, which I really didn't understand that term fully when he used it. And he talked about siddhis, and I remember thinking, I wonder what that is. And about that time, I had started to have some of these things occur of being able to hear a voice coming right in, or I would be shown something, or I would wonder about something, and almost instantly an answer would come in some form. Sometimes it was in a voice, sometimes it was something that was actually ended up right in front of me, and I would be like, wow, what just happened here? And I began to understand that these are siddhis. In fact, one of the people that was on CE5 with us in Oracle, Jackie, who was a longtime meditator and had studied with Dr. Greer, with the Maharishi, said, these are all siddhis. There are hundreds of siddhis. And this ability to hear, the ability to see things in other dimensions, the ability to manifest, and there are many siddhis, teleportation, levitation, intuiting, the future. She said, these are things that have been talked about in the Buddhist tradition, and the Vedics have talked about this for years. And after that trip to Oracle, I really started to look at, I actually didn't know very much about siddhis, so I went in and Googled this, and I started to understand that these abilities come from meditation, but not just from meditation. In fact, after I got back from that CE5, I think I've shared this with you, Una, and my children certainly know this story. I was in the kitchen thinking, so this must be happening. This must be happening because I'm meditating so much, and because I've been meditating for all these years. Not always. There are years where I but I was in the kitchen thinking about this. It must be because I've meditated a long time. And a voice came right into the kitchen and it said, Pat, that is incorrect. And I have to say, I was in shock. I was like looking around the kitchen like, okay, who is it that is speaking? And this entity literally explained to me that it said it is not the quantity of time spent meditating. It is when you added the love to the meditation. Loving energy is the fuel for the meditation. And it actually showed me that, okay, here are cities. As you meditate, so here's the meditation, and you've added love to your meditation. And as you meditate and add love, this is what happens with the cities. They begin to raise. And so the more that you meditate with love, the more the cities. The more meditation with love, the more cities. It said, if this becomes if you people try to attain cities without the meditative process with love, it becomes imbalanced. It needs to be this balance. And it said, this is the physics of it. And they actually used that word, which was really pretty shocking to me. So I think when I understood that this is one of the reasons that it's so important to meditate. And it's so important to add that loving energy to your meditation. It's not just to be able to hear things or just to be able to see things in other dimensions. It becomes your spiritual path of awakening. It changes you on a cellular level. I am convinced of this. And it changes your life. It changes the way you interact with other people. It changes how you perceive the world around you. It changes your behavior. You just become a more loving, kind, compassionate person. And to me, that is really a goal of a life well lived, is it's not about, getting things and becoming wealthy or having stuff or the status of stuff. It's really, do you learn to live in your heart and to be a loving, to get to where you can get close to unconditional love for everyone? This is a very difficult thing for us to do as humans, but to me, that is actually the goal.
So you're talking about having things and not having things. So when we go in the direction of abundance and exploring abundance, and I know you've done that in your meditation, would you like to talk a little bit about the balance and the abundance that people are searching for?
Well, people usually go into meditation when people are looking for something. There's an awful lot written. There's The Secret, and I've read all these. And early on, I thought, oh wow, they're using this meditative way to get things. The problem with getting things like that is it's like there's the wrong energy attached to it. You are trying to get things for yourself. It is, to me, only when you are searching for things that will help others and for the greater good of all that these things begin to manifest. If you're just doing it for yourself, that is an energy that is very different than saying something in a meditation like, okay, I am I'm hoping to have financial security for this group for the highest good of all. You're not asking just for me. You're asking for everyone. It needs to be a broader palette of who you're meditating. If you're asking for things and for abundance, it has to be abundance for everyone. It can't just be abundance for yourself.
So it's important to also fill that with love for what you're receiving, and not to go into that I want, that greed aspect. Even when we're, say, picking flowers, filling them with love rather than, oh, I want this flower and I want that flower.
Exactly.
Would that be? Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It just really, in fact, if I can't add that phrase to the end of something I'm searching for or I'm asking for the highest good of all, for the greatest good of all, then I need to rethink it. Then I really need to rethink what I'm doing.
Yes. So
Because
even
at the end of the day, yeah, you can't take all this stuff with you. The only thing you're going to take with you is have you grown your heart? I mean, how have you transformed yourself into a loving being who can hopefully see yourself in others, see that part of other people that is the divine in everyone. You know, we talked about this. This is an example of this. When I left Joshua Tree on one of our last CE5 events with Dr. Greer, then this is about what happens with coherence, what happens with group coherence. And it's very powerful. Like, we have a group sitting here today. Now, you may not be meditating, we're all listening, I'm talking, but just the fact that you're here, that has added to a group coherence that we have here. There's an energy here that's a group coherence. And just us being here together, this changes you. It'll change me, it'll change you. You won't even be aware of it, but it's changing you. And this is what happens when we do CE5, or when any group gets together and it is a coherent group that meditates together. There is a group coherence that elevates everyone's energy and frequency and vibration. And people really are never even aware, usually, that this is happening. They don't understand that they've been changed or altered. They are actually in an altered state of consciousness and are completely unaware of it. Now, they leave a CE5, and when they leave, they're still in an altered state of consciousness. It's as though your consciousness has been raised. You leave, and over a while, it starts to settle again, but it never goes down to here. Each time you raise your consciousness, the level gets a little higher, and it never completely goes back down. This is why this kind of thing is so important. So an example of this, I left the CE5 in Joshua Tree, and as I was walking through the John Wayne Airport, California, all of a sudden, and this had never happened before, all of a sudden, I'm in this airport, people are walking toward me, walking past me, and I am seeing them as their divine being. It's almost as though I'm seeing a glowing energy almost over their head. And as these people are walking toward me, I realize that what I'm seeing physically in the visible world, I'm seeing their genetics. I'm seeing maybe they have their mother's eyes or their father's ears, or they have a certain color of hair, or they walk a certain way, or they're tall, or they're short, or it became clear that what I was seeing was the visible manifestation of that conscious form. But and I knew that it was just the physical. I could see their divine being, that they were part of everything. It was the most extraordinary thing that happened. And as people were walking toward me, I was literally, I'm sure that people were probably looking at this look on my face, because I was like, what is happening here? And it didn't occur to me until later that I was in an altered state of consciousness from the CE5 that we were at. And it had remained. I was still in an altered state of consciousness. And that is what happens. That is what can happen when you get into altered states of consciousness. That's why it's so important. You begin to see the world in a totally different way, you begin to see the divine in everyone, in everything, and to understand that we are all conscious and we're all part of that consciousness. It's beautiful, really.
Yeah. Often people think that when we meditate, we're supposed to still our minds and not have any thoughts. Would you like to speak about thoughts that we have throughout the day, or in general when we think we're meditating?
Okay, that is an important one. When I meditate, I'm not always meditating to clear thoughts, to clear my thoughts completely. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I'm in a meditation and I'm trying to get to a very clear, centered place. And as a thought comes in, I recognize it. I don't try to fight it. I let it just move on through and continue to go. And another one will come in, and I bring my attention back each time to the breath or whatever technique I'm using, usually the breath these days. So a thought will come in, I note it, it goes away, and I can bring my thoughts right back to the breath. That is one meditation. Now, sometimes I meditate with there's something I want to meditate on. I want an answer for something. I'm trying to search for an explanation for something that's happening. There are sometimes I meditate and I'm trying to send out love, or I'm doing a forgiveness meditation. But there's one thing that becomes very clear when I'm done with these meditations. And this goes along with the thoughts. The thoughts that we have are so powerful. It's really quite amazing how powerful they are. I thought about this morning. The loudest shout that you could do with your voice would be a whisper in the thought world. Thoughts are so powerful. That's why it is so important. Often when I'm meditating, I'm trying to get to the point where I monitor my thoughts. I'm trying to find a way to discipline that part of my brain that thoughts just are incredibly important. If you can monitor your thoughts, and we all have this, a thought will come in. If you start thinking about your thoughts every day and start looking at them, and it gets exhausting, you'll realize how many thoughts you have a day that are negative in some way. They're judgmental, they're critical, there's envy or jealousy or anger. And the challenge is to see that, to become aware of those thoughts and immediately try to change that thought, send love, change that thought to what I consider a thought above the line, an energy thought form that is love, compassion, tolerance, gratitude, generosity, because those thoughts are incredibly important. Monitoring your thoughts is important. And that is that is actually one of the things that you learn through meditation. When a thought comes in and you notice it, and you bring your thought back to the breath, it is the same exact technique that you use when you're monitoring your thoughts. The world needs thoughts of love. The world does not need one more thought of anger or criticism or judgment.
Yeah, I think that's very profound, Pat. This monitor your thoughts throughout the day, monitor your thoughts, and the world does not need one more thought of criticism.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to monitor your thoughts. I've been at this for years. I mean, it takes practice, and all of a sudden I'll be somewhere and I'll become aware. I think you and I had this discussion recently. I was sitting there thinking about a friend of mine, And this is what happens when you start to get into higher states of consciousness. Because you are moving into higher states of consciousness, you are getting into levels where beings who have higher states of consciousness, this is where they reside. This is where they communicate. This is where they are. And as you raise your consciousness and you're in these levels, you can interact with them, you can communicate with them. And at times you don't even realize this is happening. So I'm having a thought one day, I'm thinking about a friend whose parents are quite elderly. And the mother has always been a little bit of a difficult person. And this has not gotten better through this caregiving time. And I sat there and I was thinking about my friend, and I had a really critical thought of her mother for a moment, thinking just how much she'd suffered for years. And with that instant, the instant that I thought it, a voice came right in and it just said, Pat. And I immediately stopped and I was like, okay, I got it. I'm going to amend that thought right now. So this starts to happen. I mean, you start to get help to monitor your thoughts. It just said my name, Pat. It didn't say Pat or Pat. It just said Pat. It was just getting my attention to be aware of what I had just done. What had just occurred, a critical thought, an unkind thought. Now, some people might say, geez, I don't know if I want to get to these states of consciousness where I'm being monitored. But, this is the path to, getting out of this consciousness that has gotten us to where we are in this world right now. Because much of what the world lives in is a low state of consciousness. It is criticism. It is all of that.
Yeah. One other thing I was wondering if you'd be willing to share is your meditations of forgiveness. Would you like to share a little bit about your experience?
Sure. Yeah, that one, well, that was another meditation that I was sitting there one day thinking about. It is my personal belief that when you leave this world, you are going to spend some time looking at what you have done in this lifetime, the interactions you've had with people, and you will be experiencing what has transpired from the other person's point of view. And I remember sitting there one day thinking, well, if I'm going to have to do that anyway, I'm going to probably have a lot to go through. I better start that process now. I thought we might as well start that while I'm still here. So I decided that I would do a meditation where I would go back in my life as far back as I could go to where I was a child and think of every time that I had injured someone with a word or an action, anything, even if I didn't understand that I had done it, I would go back and I would ask for forgiveness. And I will tell you that this took me a good week easily of meditating. I had a lot to look at. We all do, because it's a long life. And that took a week. I would just go back and look at every single thing and I would ask for forgiveness. I would say, forgive me for this. And as you look at each one of these actions that you've done, it's surprising the heartfelt remorse that you have for this. It's really a beautiful, it's really a beautiful journey. Because you are looking at that person, you're seeing what your thought or your word or your action, how it could have injured them. And you really can, it expands your heart, really. So that took a week. And after I got done with that, I thought, okay, well, I've done that now. Now I'm going to go back through in meditation, back as far back as I can. And I'm going to forgive anyone who had ever injured me, even if they didn't realize they had, in any word or action. And that easily took a week as well. I went back and through, and you'd be surprised how really powerful that is to forgive people, and how that makes your heart feel when you're doing that. I mean, it's a really loving thing to do. So it took a week to do that. I forgave anybody, and now there were a couple in there that took a little bit more energy, took a little bit more time, but I did get through that, and that took a week. And then when I got all done with that, I thought, maybe I should do one more meditation and forgive myself. So I went back through everything I'd ever done, and I forgave myself. This was the most difficult one, that meditation, and that took easily a week. that was really probably the most difficult one, because we're so critical of ourselves. We tend not to forgive ourselves. We tend to constantly bring it up and constantly remember and constantly be in a state of regret. So, that took a couple weeks to get through all those meditations. But I'll tell you, I look at those 3 meditations that I did and the weeks that took, I think that was transformative in my life. It was transformative in my energy that surrounds me. Really.
Yeah. And what you're saying is we can't just think it. We actually have to do it with ourselves, with our whole being.
Right.
And I also like the way you say that going through these, asking for forgiveness from people and the remorse we feel and how it opens our heart. Many people are afraid of that process because they think it's so painful for us. And I like the way you show us that pain can actually be very beautiful, very loving, as it expands our heart for the other people whom we've wronged in one way or another.
Yeah. Compassion is a very powerful thing.
Yeah. So,
These are, I mean, and let me just qualify this a little. These are just meditations that I have found have benefited me. There are many meditations out there. Many people have wonderful meditations that they've shared. These are just the ones that I have come up with that have helped me tremendously. And I always say to people, try every meditation, see what works for you, see what speaks to you, and then do those meditations. Don't take my word for it. I mean, you don't have to go out and do this same kind of meditation. You can tailor this to what works for you. I only speak about what it is that I know about. There's plenty I don't know.
yeah. But you're the kind of person who will go and search for that answer in meditation. And I see that in you, because you search for that answer in meditation, and it comes as a download, not as a channeling, but a download where you receive the full knowledge, the full package, the full concept. It is then easy for you to change. In fact, there's nothing much to do, because the meditation itself just creates the change within you. Yeah.
It does. The meditation is absolutely transformative. To me, meditation is the path by which you attain the ability to communicate with everything and everyone. I mean, even just person to person.
Yeah. And I guess now is the time where we all have time to meditate, isn't it?
Yep.
And also really important to meditate, to keep our vibrations and frequencies higher. But I
Yeah.
just want to, you've said it, but I just really also wanted to bring it out again, how important it is for CE5, that raising our vibrations by meditating, it makes it easier for other consciousnesses, other beings, other dimensional realities to come into us. And also the coherence of a group where, would you like to share that? Because you're the, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Are you talking about the one that happened at Joshua Tree?
The one.
That one?
So yes, that one.
Yeah. Okay. So this last CE5 that we did, it was a week long in Joshua Tree, California. And so much happened that week. I mean, so many people had contact. It was really an incredible thing. A number of us had our knees fixed. I mean, Sandra, you know about this. You were there, and it was really quite a stunningly beautiful thing that happened. It was one night we were all sitting there, and Dr. Greer and I were looking across the circle. We had just done a meditation. And we looked across the circle, and there were blue lights across the circle with a couple of people. And I said, I thought it was a cell phone, or someone had their flashlight out. And I said, does someone over there have their cell phone? Can you turn your cell phone off or turn off your flashlight? And Dr. Greer said, yeah, no cell phones, just turn the cell phone off. And the lights stayed there. There were like 4 or 5 lights there. And I said again, I said, does somebody have a light on over there? And the people who were right across from us said, nobody has a light on over here. No, nobody, no, we don't, any of us have cell phones out. And Dr. Greer and I looked at each other, and I said, oh my gosh, those are beings. Those are beings there. And Dr. Greer asked the people across it, do you know, is there something happening over there? And the one man, Erie, said, yes. He said, they just came in and said to me, would you like some help? And he said, yes, he had fallen when they were out hiking that day. And he had hurt his knee really badly. And he said, yes, I would love some help. And he said, they're working on my knee. So there were 4 or 5 of these brilliant blue orbs all around his knee. And we were all, I mean, everybody was in amazement. We were just in shock, like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And as we sat there watching this, I said, I didn't say it out loud. I thought, wow, wish they'd fix my knee, because I've had a bad knee since I was 15. It was just a thought. I said, wow, wish they'd fix my knee. And with that, Dr. Greer said, Pat, one of them turned red, brilliant red, and came right across the circle, maybe a few inches off the ground, right to my knee. And Dr. Greer said, Pat, that's on your knee. And I'm sitting there, and I could barely feel it, but I could tell that there was something happening. And that, my knee is 90% better than it's ever been. And I've had this for 48 years. Yeah. I've had this issue for 48 years and had surgery. So that happened. And the next morning in meditation, I'm sitting there in meditation the next morning, and a voice comes in and says, we would like you to share, to teach the meditation with love. Now you have to understand that whenever these a voice comes in like this, I'm still amazed. I'm still like, oh my gosh. And it said, we're happy that everybody was excited that we were there. And we love that. It said, but the energy in the group, and it showed me, and probably they're showing me this because I'm a very visual person, and visual aids are good for me. It showed the circle of people sitting there, and they said, this is what the energy looks like when everyone's excited. and there were these big tall peaks and ups and downs. And they said, we would like you to share the loving meditation so that their energy could be stay high like this all the way around. They were showing me this, and I'm paraphrasing, so that it makes an area where we can come in safely, for us to be able to come in safely. This makes a barrier for us, this high energy. That was really pretty amazing that was shown to me, and it made perfect sense. I mean, we all talked about this. It made perfect sense. The chaotic energy is just too up and down and up and down. It's too jagged. It's too chaotic. But if you go into your heart with love and you're in a coherent circle with people, and everybody goes into that meditation when they come in, when you're in a CE5 and you think there are beings that are around, if you can all quietly go into a meditation where you're filling your heart with love, this builds a protective space, energy field for them to come in.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's so important when doing CE5, coming to that place as a group of consciousness, of meditation. Yeah.
We all get excited when they show up. Everybody gets excited.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So let's take some questions. I've got one question here from Oria from Israel, and she says, during meditation, when I wake up or go to sleep, sometimes those voices lie to me, even when they are benevolent. How can I trust them?
Okay, when you're saying they lie to you, how do you know that they're lying to you?
I'm going to just unmute Oria.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great.
Well, I'm sorry. I have two other questions that I just think kind of relate to the same subject. Maybe it would be clearer if I asked them first.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I should start with the whole notion of self-love and how you relate to it, because I feel that I'm not very good at that. And maybe that's why I'm having so much trouble.
Now, okay, the first part of your question, the audio was a little bit skewed there. I couldn't understand the very first part of your question. Could you repeat that?
Yeah. So my question is about self-love and what's your take on self-love? Because I think that it's important, and you can't really love, have love in your heart and send it to other people if you really don't love yourself. And maybe that's why I'm having a lot of trouble with it. So I was wondering, what's your take on that?
I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think that we all struggle with self-love. Everybody does. We all have that. I think it just comes with the territory of being a human being. We're born, there's all kinds of judgment that happens in our lives. There's all kinds of, it's a learning process for us, and self-love is a really difficult one. But I do not think that keeps you from being able to go into a meditation and fill your heart with love and sending that out to others. I think the process of doing that eventually leads to more self-love, because what you're doing is such a selfless thing by filling your heart with love and sending it to others. This is such a healing thing. It is a loving thing. It fills you with love. And I am of the opinion that love becomes self-healing. Over time, you will heal yourself with that love. Not only does it, you're giving it to others, while you're doing that, you're healing yourself.
Yeah.
Love literally is the answer to almost everything, as far as I'm concerned. So I would say, try to go into a meditation and think of something. I mean, surely there's some, I mean, do you have a pet or a beloved person in your life, or someone, maybe even someone who's passed, something that fills your heart completely with love? Start there and let that grow.
Yeah, and what I found is even plants, you can just love the plant, the tree, the flowers. Just send out love to the mountains.
Mm-hmm. So, Aurea, have you ever had anything in your life that you felt very connected to? I don't know, even from your childhood, something that you felt very connected to?
I'm just going to unmute you, Aurea. It's not working.
Not working?
No.
Oh, there she is. Are you, Aurea? Have you ever had anything, maybe even when you were a child? No? Okay.
Yeah.
I would say keep at this. It is the thing that will help. Start with just meditation, and then start by, in little ways, small ways, try to bring in a feeling of love to your heart. It can be anything that will help you fill your heart with a little bit of love. And it could be music. It could be something that you love doing. It could be a hobby, something that brings you joy.
Okay. I have another question from Ron here.
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't we also be critical and skeptical on how we get things presented through media? Is being critical not also looking for liberation?
Critical about how, we mean be discerning about media, the information that comes through media? Well, Ron, here's the thing. I have, for a number of years, I have eschewed the media. It is, to me, yes, I think you have to be very critical of that. But I think it's less about that energy of criticism. There's a difference between criticism and critical. Critical is being a little bit more discerning. I think you do have to be discerning about what comes through in the media. I am not a fan of media. I am not a fan of entertainment. I am not a fan of the current entertainment and news media, most of the movies and games that are produced. I'm not a fan of it because I think it is filled with the antithesis of love. It is criticism, it is drama, it is envy, it is judgment, it is the games and the movies, to me, are full of violence of one form or another. And if that's what you're feeding your soul with continuously, this is a very deleterious effect on someone's energy. It has a deleterious effect on your entire outlook of life. So yes, I think you do need to be critical of that. I think you need to be very discerning about how much of that you let in. Does that answer the question?
It's the way I usually explain it to people is, we can say this is wrong and this is right, or so that's a judgment, or we can discern, what do I want and what do I not want. So if we have two pillows, a green pillow and a yellow pillow, I can discern, I want the yellow pillow. That doesn't make the green pillow wrong or bad in any way. Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions? Let me see, has anything else come in? Yeah. Anybody else want to unmute themselves and ask Pat anything? Yeah.
I agree. We all want to send some love there. Aria, we're all sending love. You know, I went through a process when I was quite young that I totally felt unloved, and I get that completely. There was a lot of judgment. I mean, when we're young and you're ADHD, you know, when you become an adult and you're ADHD, you can multitask, and all those things are valued. They're valued in the world. You can multitask. You can do 1,000 things at once. However, when you're young, it is not valued. It is disruptive. It is thought to be disruptive in the home, disruptive in school. I mean, really, it's and you can get this feeling that you definitely can be labeled, for sure. And as children, we don't discern it like, oh, they are upset because I am being too wild or too loud. The child sees it as, I am unlovable. I am unloved. That's how we look at it. And those things we carry with us for a long time. It stays with us for a long time in our life. And it's hard to change that. But as we move through life and we find joy in the things that we turn our attention to, we begin to heal those wounds. We really do. Those wounds begin to be healed. And through meditation, I found that the meditative process helped to speed that process up. The more I did, the more meditation that I did, the more I understood, the more I healed.
Yeah. Anyone else want to raise their hand or ask a question? Let me see. So thank you, Pat. Thank you. I think this is such an important part of doing CE5 and such a little understood part of CE5, because people want to go out and they want to see something, and understanding the beauty of this, the depth of this, and how this is essential to actually creating results. Thank you for sharing your journey and your thoughts.
Let me say one thing quickly. That happens in a lot in CE5. That comes up all the time in CE5. People want to see something. They want to experience something. And I tell people, you know, when you come to a CE5 and you're out with a group doing CE5, you may indeed see something. You may indeed come into contact with beings from other dimensions, other planets, other worlds, for sure. But the actual work that is so important to do when a CE5 group gets together is the consciousness work, the group consciousness, raising your consciousness. That is the really important work. It's not about meeting an ET or seeing a craft. It's about getting to the point in your consciousness that you can interact with the beings that are on the craft. Interact with these beings and communicate with them. Feel the love that they send. Send love to them, friendship. Whenever I'm out anywhere, I send them love and friendship. I literally visualize myself with my hand offering friendship. I mean, that's what is, I think we all need to do there. That's the important part.
Yeah. So thank you very much. I will stop the YouTube.
Okay, thank you.
For now.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.